I, Robert, Isaac Asimov. Mr. Srudos was a conscientious general manager and naturally inclined to be a bit talkative. The combination, therefore, resulted in a tour that was fully explained, perhaps even over abundantly explained at every step. However, Mrs. Weston was not bored. Indeed, she stopped him several times and begged him to repeat his statement in simpler language so that Gloria might understand. Under the influence of this appreciation of his narrative powers, Mr. Schroeder explained genuinely and became ever more communicative if possible. George Winston himself showed a gathering impatience. "Pardon me, Schroeder," he said, breaking into the middle of a lecture on the photoelectric cell. "Haven't you a section of the factory where only rubber labor is employed?" "Huh? Oh, yes, you indeed." He smiled at Mrs. Weston. "A vicious circle in a way. Robot creating more robot. Of course, you are not making a general practice out of it. For one thing, the unions would never let us, but we can turn out a very few robots using robot labor exclusively, merely as a sort of a scientific experiment, you see." He tapped his princeness into the farm argumentatively. "What the labor unions don't realize when I say this as a man who has always been very sympathetic with the labor movement in general is that the advent of the robot, while involving some dislocation to begin with, will inevitably." "Yes, through those," says Weston, "but about the section of the factory you speak of, may you see it? It would be very interesting, I'm sure." "Yes, yes, of course." Mr. Schroeder replaced his pince-nez in one compulsive movement and gave vent a soft cough for discomfiture. "Follow me, please." He was comparatively quiet while leading the three through the long corridor and down a flight of stairs. Then, when they had entered a large, well-lit room that buzzed into metallic activity, the sluices opened and the flood of explanation poured forth again. "There you are," she said with pride in his voice. "Robots only. 5-man act and overseers, and they don't even stay in this room. In 5 years since we began with this project, not a single accident has occurred. Of course, the robots here assembled are comparatively simple, but the general manager's voice has long died to a rather soothing murmur in Gloria ears. The whole trip seemed rather dull and pointless to hear. Though there were many robots in sight, none were even remotely like Robbie, though, and she surveyed them with open contempt. In this room, there weren't any people at all, she noticed, and her eyes fell upon 6 or 7 robots busily engaged in a round table halfway across the room. They widened in incredulous surprise. It was a big room. She couldn't see for sure, but one of the robots looked like it was. "Robbie!" A shriek fissured the air, and one of the robots about the table flattered and dropped the tool he was holding. Gloria went almost mad with joy. Squeezing through the railing before the idle parent stood stop her, she dropped lightly to the floor a few feet below, and ran toward the lobby, arms waving, her way flying, and 3 horror five adults as they stood frozen in their track, so the excited little girls did not see the huge lumbering tractor bearing blindly down up its offense the track. It took a split second for Weston to come to his stance, and those split seconds meant everything, but Gloria could not be overtaken. Although Weston bolted the railing in a wild attempt, it was obviously hopeless. Mr. Strudus signaled widely to the overseers to stop the tractor, but the overseers were only human, and it took time to act. It was only Robbie that acted immediately and with precision. With the metal legs eating up the space between himself and his little mysteries, he charged down from the opposite direction. Everything then happened at once. With one swift for an arm, Robbie snatched up Gloria, slackening his speed not one iota, and consequently knocking every breath on air out of her. Winston, not quite comprehending all the happening, felt rather than saw. Robbie brushed past him and came to a sudden, bewildered halt. The tractor intersected Gloria past half a second after Robbie had rolled 10 feet further and came to a grinding, long drawn-out stop. Gloria regained her breath, submitted to a series of passionate hugs to the part of both her parent and turned eagerly toward Robbie. As far as she was concerned, nothing had happened except that she had found her friend. But Mrs. Winston's experience had changed from one of relief to one of dark suspicion. She turned to her husband, and despite her disheveled and disdignified appearance, managed to look quite formidable. You engineered this, didn't you? George Winston swabbed at the hot forehead with his handkerchief. His hands were unsteady, and his lip could curve only one of the tremulous and exceedingly weak smile. Mrs. Weston pursued in a thought. Robbie wasn't designed for engineering, for construction work. He couldn't be of any use of them. You had him placed there deliberately, so that Gloria would find him. You know you did. Well, I did, said Weston. But, Grace, how was I know the reunion would be so violent? The lobby was saved her life. You will have to admit that. You can't send him again. Grace Weston considered. She turned toward Gloria and Robbie and watched them abstractedly for a moment. Gloria had a grip about Robert's neck that would have asphyxiated any creature but one of metal. She was prattling nonsense in half hysterical French. Robbie's chrome steel arms, capable of bending a bar of steel 2 inches in diameter in a pretzel, wound about the little girl gently and lovingly, and his eye glowed a deep red. Well, said Mrs. Weston at last, I guess he can stay with us until he rusts. Susan Calvin shrugged her shoulder. Of course he didn't. That was 1998. By 2002, we had invented a mobile speaking robot which, of course, made all of non-speaking model out of date, and which seemed to be the final straw as far as the non-robot element were concerned. Most of the world governments banned the robot used us for any purpose than other scientific research between 2003 and 2007. So, that Gloria had to give up Robbie eventually? I'm afraid so. I imagine, however, that it was easier for her at the age of 15 than at 8. Still, it was a stupid, unnecessary attitude of the part of the humanity. U.S. robot hit its low point. financially just about the time I joined them in 2007. At first, I saw my job might come to a sudden end in a matter of months, but then we simply developed the extraterrestrial market. And then you were set, of course, not quiet. We began by trying to adapt the model you had to hand. Those first-picking model, for instance, they were about 12 feet high, very clumsy and not much good. We sent them out Mercury to help build the mining station there, but that failed. I looked up the surprise. It did? Why? Mercury mine is a multi-billion-dollar concern. It's now, but it was a second attempt that succeeded. If you want to know about that, young man, I'd advise you to look up Gregory Powell. He and Michael Donovan handled our most difficult case in the teens and 20s. I haven't heard from Donovan in years, but Powell is living right here in New York. He's a grandfather now, which is sort of difficult to get used to. I can only think of him as a rather young man. Of course, I was younger too. I tried to keep talking. If you would give me the bare bones, Dr. Calvin, I can have Mr. Powell fill it in afterward, and this was exactly what I later did. She spread her thin hand out upon the desk and looked at them. There are 2 or 3, she said, that I know a little about. Start with Mercury, I suggested. Well, I think it was in 2015 that the second Mercury expedition was sent out. It was exploratory and financed in part by US robot and in part by Solar Minerals. It consists of a new type robot, still experimental. Gregory Powell, Michael Donovan.